Hello family, before we start this intriguing story, we would like you to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified once we drop new story. Also comment the time and country you are watching from. The afternoon sun hung in the sky like a ball of fire, its heat pressing heavily on the crowded streets of Lagos. The smell of burning rubber mixed with the distant aroma of frying akara as traders shouted over one another, trying to sell their goods before nightfall. But despite the noise, the energy was different. It was not the lively Lagos of the rich, but the struggling Lagos of the poor. Women in faded wrappers sat by their stalls, watching customers pick up food items only to put them back after checking the price. Even those who managed to buy something did so with tight lips, knowing there was no certainty of another meal tomorrow. By the roadside, a thin man sat under a makeshift umbrella, pushing a rusty wheelbarrow filled with firewood. His eyes darted left and right, hoping someone, anyone, would call him for work. Across from him, a mother held her crying child close, whispering promises of food she didn't know how to fulfill. Lagos was a land of dreams, but for many, it was also a land of suffering. In a small, dimly lit room at the back of an old, crumbling house, Precious sat beside her mother, watching her stir a pot of watery soup. The kitchen was nothing more than a corner of their single-room apartment, with a small charcoal stove and a few cooking utensils. The room smelled of burnt onions and smoke, but for Precious, the real problem was the scarcity of food. She glanced at the soup again, just a few floating pieces of fishbone and one miserable-looking piece of meat. It wouldn't be enough for their family of four. Her father, a carpenter, sat on the bed, his shoulders slumped in frustration. "No work today," he muttered. "I even went to the market square, but all the furniture makers are complaining, no one is buying." Precious' younger brother, Junior, sat on the floor, playing with a worn-out toy car made from an old tin of Milo. His small stomach growled loudly, but he didn't say anything. He was used to it. Precious swallowed the lump in her throat. "Mama, what if we..." Her mother cut her off. "We will eat. We will survive. God will not forget us." But as the little family sat to share their small meal, they all knew the truth: survival was becoming harder every day. The next morning, Precious walked down the busy street, her stomach still grumbling from last night's unsatisfying meal. School was no longer an option for her parents couldn't afford the fees. So instead, she went to the market to see if she could help her mother sell tomatoes. As she made her way through the dusty road, she saw him again. The old beggar, Johnson. He sat near a broken fence, his back resting against the rough concrete wall. His clothes were torn, his skin pale, and his ribs stuck out from his chest. He barely had the strength to call out, but his weak voice still reached her ears. "Please, a little food, anything at all." People passed by without sparing him a glance. Some even stepped over his outstretched hand, as if he were nothing but dirt. Precious felt a sting in her heart. Every time she saw him, the same thought ran through her mind: what if that were me? But there was nothing she could do. She barely had enough food for herself. Or was there? That night, as she lay on her tin mattress, the thought of Johnson wouldn't leave her mind. She remembered how his hands shook when he begged, how his lips were cracked from thirst. She turned to face the ceiling, her stomach empty and her mind restless. Tomorrow, she would have only one meal, just one. But what if she gave it away? The idea made her heart race. Would her parents understand? Would she survive the night hungry? She had to make a decision. Would Precious risk her only meal to help a beggar who had nothing? Or would she put her own survival first? The sun had barely risen when Precious stepped out of the house, the cool morning air doing little to ease the hunger she felt from the night before. The streets were already bustling with activity, traders arranging their goods, children running barefoot, and bus conductors yelling at passengers. As she made her way towards the market, she saw him again. Johnson sat in his usual spot near the broken fence, his bony hands stretched out in silent plea. His head hung low, his lips dry and cracked. His clothes were nothing more than rags clinging to his thin frame, and his body shook slightly from weakness. Precious swallowed hard. Every day, she passed him. Every day, she felt guilty. But what could she do? She had nothing to offer. She turned her gaze away, quickening her pace. Yet, no matter how fast she walked, she couldn't outrun the feeling in her heart. At the market, Precious helped her mother arrange the small heap of tomatoes they were selling. Business was slow, as always. Many people stopped to ask for prices but walked away, their pockets too empty to buy. A woman picked up a tomato and frowned. "These are too expensive. Mama, should we reduce the price?" Precious whispered. Her mother shook her head. "If we sell cheaper, what will we eat?" Precious sighed. Everyone was struggling. Even those who seemed better off were only barely surviving. At noon, she took a break and walked around the market. Everywhere she looked, she saw signs of hardship. Children sat beside their mothers, their eyes dull from hunger. A young boy fought with a dog over a piece of leftover bread. A shoemaker sat idle, waiting for a customer who might never come. This was life in Lagos. Yet, through all this suffering, Precious knew one thing: she was still better off than Johnson. That evening, as Precious and her family sat for dinner, her father spoke in a tired voice. "I heard the government is planning something for the poor, but who knows when?" Her mother scoffed. "Government promises don't fill empty stomachs." Precious chewed her food slowly, deep in thought. She wanted to tell them about Johnson. She wanted to ask if they could spare something for him. But she already knew the answer. Their food was barely enough. Her mother caught her staring at her plate. "Eat up, my dear. You need strength for tomorrow." Precious nodded, but the food tasted like sand in her mouth. That night, as she lay on her mattress, Johnson's image haunted her. His trembling hands. His sunken eyes. The way people ignored him. Would he even survive another night? She had always wished to help, but she never had the means. Now, she did. Tomorrow, her mother would give her a small meal for lunch, her only meal of the day. The thought of going hungry scared her. But the thought of Johnson starving to death scared her even more. Would she dare? Would she give away her only meal, knowing she would have to sleep on an empty stomach? The morning sun peeked through the tiny cracks in the wooden window of Precious' house. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her stomach already protesting from hunger. Today was the day. Her mother handed her a small nylon bag containing a single piece of bread and a sachet of water. It wasn't much, but it was all she had. "Eat well, my dear," her mother said softly, brushing a hand over her hair. "You need energy to help in the market." Precious nodded, but her heart was heavy. She could already see Johnson's thin hands shaking as he begged for food. Could she really do this? As she walked down the street, she clutched her meal tightly, her palms sweating. The market was noisy, filled with the sounds of traders calling customers and bus conductors yelling for passengers. And then, she saw him. Johnson sat in his usual place, his head lowered. His hands were empty, no one had given him anything today. Precious slowed her steps, her heart racing. She felt a war inside her: eat and survive or give and suffer. She stepped closer, her hands trembling. "Excuse me, sir," she said in a small voice. 30 minutes into the journey, Sir Mauve turned to Juliet. "You said you gave me bread near the mango tree, right?" She hesitated. "Yes, sir." "What did I say to you afterward?" "Oh, you said, 'Thank you.'" He nodded. "I never said thank you." "That was the test." Juliet's face froze. Sir Mauve leaned back. "Tell the driver to turn around." The black jeep screeched to a stop at the edge of Idui village. Juliet's heart was racing. She had tried to remain calm during the ride back, but Sir Mauve's silence had pierced her like a knife. As she stepped out of the car, Sir Mauve looked at her one last time. "Go and tell your mother, truth is like smoke, it will always rise." Juliet ran off in shame, her pride crumbling with each step. Villagers watched her as she returned, confused at the sight of the same girl who left just hours ago. Inside the house, Precious still sat curled in a corner, hungry, tired, and heartbroken. Moments later, the door flew open. Sir Mauve stepped in, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on the frail girl in the corner. Precious. She looked up, stunned. You came back. He nodded. I always knew something was wrong. A kind heart cannot be faked. Her lips trembled. I thought I missed my chance. You didn't. And you never will. He helped her to her feet, handed her a bottle of water, and led her out of the house. The villagers watched in stunned silence as she walked beside him, no longer the barefoot girl carrying shame, but a young woman stepping into destiny. That afternoon, Sir Mauve gathered the entire village at the square. He stood beside Precious, who now wore a simple but beautiful gown he had brought for her. I came here searching for kindness, he said, and I found it in a girl who had no food, no shoes, and no hope, but gave all she had. He turned to the crowd. But some people tried to steal her blessing. Juliet and her mother bowed their heads in shame. I forgive them, Precious said softly, but I will not let them control my future. The villagers applauded. Some wept. Even Chief Okon stood up and declared, from today, this girl is no longer a nobody. She is a daughter of honor. That evening, Precious climbed into the jeep once more, this time for real. The village watched her with pride and wonder. Her stepmother tried to come close, but Precious said nothing. She only gave a long, silent look, neither angry nor bitter. Just free. As the jeep rolled away, she held the scholarship letter in her hand, whispering, "This is not just paper. It's my voice. My second chance." As the city lights of Abuja came into view, Precious pressed her face to the car window, eyes wide in awe. Skyscrapers reached into the night sky, the roads buzzed with cars, and neon signs lit up every corner. It was nothing like Idui. Sir Mauve watched her quietly. It's beautiful, but not everyone here is kind. The city tests your heart more than the village ever could. Precious nodded, holding her scholarship letter tightly. I'm ready, sir. But she wasn't. Not for what waited ahead. Sir Mauve's mansion was grand, marble floors, chandeliers, glass stairs. Precious was shown to a cozy guest room with a soft bed and a warm robe. The next morning, Sir Mauve introduced her to the others in the house, his personal assistant, his cook, and his niece, Lomi, a well-dressed city girl in her early 20s with eyes like a hawk. Lomi forced a smile. Welcome, village girl. Hope you don't get lost in the house. Precious lowered her eyes. Thank you. Sir Mauve placed a hand on Precious's shoulder. She's more than just a village girl. That was all it took for jealousy to ignite. Lomi had always been the center of Sir Mauve's attention. Until now. As the days passed, Precious started her schooling. She was smart, determined, and caught the attention of many. Teachers praised her humility. Students admired her work ethic. But Lomi's jealousy grew darker. She began to set traps, spilling ink on Precious's clothes, hiding her textbooks, even spreading rumors. She's not really a good girl, she whispered to classmates. She's just pretending. Precious said nothing. She focused on her books, her chores, and her prayers. But silence couldn't protect her for long. One morning, Sir Mauve's wristwatch, an expensive gold heirloom, went missing. Lomi screamed, it was Precious. I saw her near your room. The entire household was shaken. Sir Mauve, looking shocked, called Precious aside. I didn't take anything, Precious said, tears forming. I swear on everything I have. But Lomi stood tall. She's been pretending, uncle. Don't let her fool you. Sir Mauve said nothing. His silence hurt more than 1,000 slaps. Precious went back to her room, shaking. She fell to her knees and cried, God, is this another test? Night fell heavily over Sir Mauve's mansion. Precious lay wide awake, the accusation still echoing in her mind. In the corner of her room sat her torn village bag, the only thing she had carried from Edui. She whispered to herself, why does my kindness keep bringing me pain? Meanwhile, in the living room, Lomi celebrated in silence. Her trap had worked, or so she thought. Sir Mauve couldn't sleep either. Something about the whole accusation didn't sit right with him. At 2 a.m., he walked into his study and opened his security system, unaware that the new cameras he had installed were now recording everything in the house. He scanned through the footage. And then he froze. The video showed Lomi creeping into his room with a towel over her hand, then walking out moments later with the golden wristwatch tucked beneath her dress. Sir Moff leaned back, his eyes wide with betrayal. So it was her all along. By morning, Sir Moff gathered the entire household. Precious stood in the middle of the room, quiet and broken. Lomi arrived late, sipping juice. Sir Moff walked in holding a tablet. Before we judge anyone, let's watch this. The footage played. Gasp filled the room. Lomi dropped her glass. I was just trying to test her. Enough, Sir Moff said, his voice calm but firm. Kindness isn't weakness. But what you did is. He turned to Precious. I failed you. I allowed lies to stain your light. Precious's eyes welled with tears, but she smiled faintly. Now I understand, even gold must pass through fire. Later that evening, Sir Moff called Precious into his private office. The room was filled with photos of cities, schools, and children. He handed her a brown envelope. Inside was a full university scholarship, a monthly allowance, and ownership documents of a small house in the city. But, this is too much, she whispered. You earned it. You saved me that day with your bread. But more than that, you reminded me what it means to be human. He looked at her with soft eyes. I was once poor too, Precious. I disguised myself that day to find real hearts. And yours shone the brightest. Precious stood at the gates of Destiny University weeks later, dressed in a clean white shirt and blue jeans. She looked ahead, not back. Lomi had been sent abroad to reflect on her actions. Sir Moff continued supporting girls like Precious. And the villagers of Idui. They heard the news and hung their heads in quiet shame. Kindness is never wasted. It may be mocked, it may suffer, but in the end, it becomes the bridge between brokenness and purpose. Precious gave bread to a blind beggar. She gained a future she never imagined. Subscribe for more powerful African folktale stories that inspire, twist, and transform.